and I came across this. Look at halfway through it. I'll read it. Steve, I am very impressed with your ability to break it all down and be a fan, yet still be objective. You have been a cheerleader for Aptera, but never have you dismissed any problems without looking into the weeds. I salute your steadfastness and honest reviews, as we know what side you are on, but you are capable of looking at challenges and moving forward past it. Thanks again. That is absolute nonsense. I don't know how Chris Barrett sees what an idiot comes up with and praises him for it. So let's get back and have a look at what the idiot has been saying for entertainment purposes.
Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. I wanted to kind of give a summary of my thoughts about this lawsuit that's pending. There are lots of unknowns about this thing, and we really can't come to any like real conclusions because all the information we have is just the plaintiff's complaints.
Let me just say, I came to some real conclusions when I covered his interview with Heather. Turn around and say we have no real conclusions is eliminating the real conclusions that even she made.
So we can't come to any conclusions, but there are some things that we can say are these are the important factors in this case. So here are the things that are kind of take-home messages. I wanted to kind of write it down. So in a way, it's kind of a good sign.
Let me begin by saying what we have here, and I've watched it first, is 8 items. The eighth one, blank. That, to me, is sloppy, absolutely sloppy. When we get through all these, you'll find that he never even mentioned number 7. He ended at 6. What are the damages? There was number 7, no dragging it out after the expiry date, after the patent won't protect Aptera. Having a number 8 without anything written is even more sloppy. This guy's brain has definite deficiencies.
Why is that kind of a good sign? Is because Aptera has gotten to the point where whoever these people are, they think that Aptera is successful enough that they can extract money out of them.
They did this mid-2022. Aptera had hardly anything at that stage. I don't think this point is valid at all. I don't know why he even thought it, because they started mid-2022 and Aptera's success was almost zero. So he's making a point that doesn't make sense at all.
Hire lawyers to initiate this lawsuit because you can't get water out of a stone. So it's in a way it's kind of a backhanded compliment at Aptera that they are getting sued because someone thinks that they're going to succeed and make enough money that it's worthwhile to sue them.
No, it may not even be to make money from them. They can sue by going, we don't want Aptera to make it. A lawsuit is capable of stopping them from making it. No money involved, but stopping them from making it allows Aptera to, I don't know, wait for the perfect time to bring out the product that they own the patent for. That makes sense to me. Why hasn't the Cretin considered that? This lawsuit could be solely to prevent Aptera making the product before them. That's enough of a reason to do it. And by doing it in 2022, that seems more likely the reason. My message in this quick evaluation is that the Cretin doesn't think things out. He has deficient cognitive processes and he deceives people with what little he can think.
Okay, so that's point number one. The big point is who owns the patent.
Heather made it clear that the patent, I keep saying patent because the Americans say patent, but I prefer to say patent, and I just keep switching from one to the other. Heather made it clear that Aptera owned the patent. The Cretin is trying to deceive you by saying it's unclear and asking the question. There is no need to even ask the question. Aptera owned the patent.
So if you look back at the very first communication between them, basically they're saying, okay, here we go. This is Heather Ripicki from Barnes and Thornburg Law Firm. And they sent this notice in July 28th of 2022. And it says, hey, we represent Aptera, the owners of these patents. The copies of the patents are attached to this for your reference. And as you know, we're aware of this. Please come talk to us. and we can work out some kind of agreement. And says, please let us know no later than August 10th, 2020, when you are available to participate in a meaningful discussion to address Aptera's concerns.
Take good notice that it's August 10th that they need to reply at the latest.
And then Aptera replied to them via using Wasserbauer intellectual property law.
Now take a look at when they replied. September 16th. That's 37 days late in replying. The Cretin doesn't highlight the fact that it's 37 days after the deadline date. I think he doesn't want anybody to notice. But that's massive incompetence on the part of Aptera Motors to be so late.
Law firm. And it says, Dear Ms. Ripicki, that's the lawyer representing Aptera at that time, I must break off communications. We need sufficient understanding evidencing your rights or lack thereof before discussing anything regarding these patents. The patent applications are assigned to Idea Labs Holdings. The company Aptera, who you represent, is not the standing record holder of these patents. See Exhibit 1. Evidently, you are also representing a corporation that is suspended and not licensed to do business in California or the United States since September of 2013 for almost 10 years. So basically, Aptera sent them a letter saying, hey, you're infringing on our patents. Aptera sent them back a letter saying, hey, you're not even the owners of these patents. And number two, you're not even licensed to do business in the United States or California. So we're not talking to you until you can prove to us that you have standing in this case. And so we have two different stories here. Aptera saying they own the patents, and Aptera saying you do not own the patents. Now, Aptera has said that what they did is before 2019, when they restarted, they had the opportunity to regain the patents and the intellectual property from the first iteration of Aptera, and that's how they restarted the company. And we always assumed that that was the case. And we don't.
We know it's a lie now. This who owns the patents should have been clear to the Cretin, but he can't think well enough to know that this letter was absolute nonsense. So he's still clinging onto it and trying to deceive people with its content. Let's go to the SEC filings he's been covering and look at whether Aptera owns the patents now. The question is, who owns the patents? Look at the filings and you can see in the registered patents that those two patents are not owned by Aptera Motors. That's it in a nutshell. Nothing more is needed. In fact, Heather was pretty clear on the fact that although not knowing who Aptera was, she was clear on the fact that Aptera owned the patents.
Don't know if that's the case now. Maybe Aptera is telling the truth. Maybe Aptera is telling the truth. We don't know yet. What's interesting is I would have assumed that this BT, this Barnes and Thornburg law firm would have checked and verified that Aptera owns these patents before agreeing to represent them and sending this letter.
I would have assumed that the Cretin would have looked at his own covering of the SEC filings.
And then when Wasserbauer writes this letter saying that no, Idea Labs owns the patent, I would have thought they would have verified that. But then Aptera is sending back this one saying, hey, as of July 9th, 2024, they are saying that they are the Aptera USA is the owner of this one. And then just last month, somehow they got assigned the patent. So how did this happen? That's very interesting. We don't know.
It's neither relevant nor important to even ask about this situation. It is just clear evidence that they own the patent since May 2012. It answers the question, who owns the patent? And the check on the SEC filings ratifies the fact that Aptera Motors doesn't own the patent. So there, it's done and dusted. But he's deceiving people and just saying it's all questionable. There's nothing questionable about it. These are facts.
But I think this is the major thing right here. Who owns the patent? Now, if Aptera can prove that Aptera does not own the patent and they don't have things. I believe, okay, this is just complete conjecture. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that that would make it get thrown out.
So I believe that this isn't going to get thrown out on this basis. Those are the facts. Stop listening to somebody who cannot think straight and all he wants to do is deceive people.
And then is Aptera even a functional entity? Do they even are they even a business? Who knows?
First, we have to question, does Aptera have to be a functional entity? As far as I can tell, Heather was saying they didn't need to be. So why bring up the question again? Whoever Aptera is, it's known by the Patent Office as being the owner of the two patents in question. That's good enough. This functional entity nonsense is just a diversion.
Aptera is saying they are not. They are obviously saying that they are. The other thing is that this is a design patent, and design patents don't cover, according to Heather Meeker, who we talked to, they don't cover things that are for functional reasons. And we know that Aptera looks the way it does because it's aerodynamic and functional. So perhaps they can argue that the look of it is purely functional. We know the Morello body.
I'll stop here because obviously he's on point 4, but he's showing us a highlighted point 3 still. He's talking about point 4 and has been for some seconds. I marvel at how this clown can be in education. It's these little things that point to his own incompetence.
These vehicles all look very, very similar, and it's mainly because of the functional aspect of it. However, Heather pointed out that this argument may be a little bit harder to make because the people that got the patent are the current people that are part of Aptera, like Jason Hill and others, and that make it harder for them to argue that the design patent does not apply in this case, since they are the ones who applied for the design patent and said the design patent was applicable in this case.
The Cretin is very confused here because Heather was saying that the design patent is wrong because inventors have on-sold the patent and that the patent office has recognized it as a patent. Then he confuses what Heather was saying about a utility patent, where Heather was saying that the utility aspect was irrelevant. And Aptera are going down the path of going, we might have a case that being aerodynamic is a feature of a utility patent, so we'll try to stop the design patent. That's nonsense. Why can't the Cretin see that? If they're barking up wrong trees, why can't the Cretin, who has had it explained to him by an expert, that I think she put it, never the twain shall meet. Utility and design are apples and oranges. And as far as I can tell, both Aptera, the lawyers they employ, and the silly Cretin are all confused.
Um, Also, we were told that one of the most important things is that how experienced is the company and the law firm at successfully litigating these things. The most important thing is how successful are they and how experienced are they. Now we know Aptera is not very experienced. They've never sued anyone before at doing this. They've kind of resurrected themselves just for this one lawsuit. How experienced is the other law firm? So what's interesting is the first company that was representing them was this Barnes and Thornburg, was representing Aptera. They are a huge law firm, but they've changed. So if you look at it now, the current lawsuit is brought forward by Adebeck and Company and Morrow Nye LLP. So I looked them up. This is Morrow, and they are experts in IP. So they are IP lawyers. And then this is Avatech. They are business litigation. So they don't talk about intellectual property, but more of like breach of contract, trademark litigation, that kind of thing. This may represent another issue because supposedly Aptera says that they own the trademark, which is that symbol and the name Aptera. So they're saying that they own that name and the symbol. And maybe this is a foreshadowing of them suing for the trademark part of it. Who knows? I don't know. Here's kind of the backstory on this from Autoblock. This is a story back in 2013. So what happened is when they liquidated, Zap Johnway bought the assets.
First of all, Notice in the backstory that there is the word bankruptcy in 2011. All those clowns that keep saying there was no bankruptcy, here is it in print. Bankruptcy in 2011. Get your heads around that, idiots.
And so I don't know how experienced these two law firms, Morrow and Abatech, are at doing these things. And then the company that's representing Aptera.
Okay, so what I get from this is that Aptera once had one law firm, and now that they have actually done the litigation, they have decided to employ two law firms. That to me tells me they're very serious. One law firm to cover the minor points and another one to cover the patent ownership. Looks like a bad sign to me.
As of 2022, now they may have changed lawyers now, was Wasserbauer, which seems like a relatively small firm. There's 3 lawyers in this firm, so it's a relatively small firm. I'm wondering if now.
So, first of all, the Cretin's saying they only had a little firm, Aptera that is, and now they've got 2 firms, and he plays that down. But now he's going, Aptera has employed a really small firm. So why doesn't he say this looks like a bad sign?
And then what are the damages? So the damages are like Aptera has not sold any vehicles using this quote design that supposedly Zaptera allegedly owns. But they could claim damages that Aptera crowdfunded and raised millions of dollars using this design, and therefore they are entitled to some of that money. Now, one question was, since this is going to expire in April of next year, which is only like 6-7 months away, can Aptera drag out this litigation until that date, and then since it's expired, it goes away? No, it doesn't.
Well, once again, he's dropped highlighting the points that he wants to talk about. But I don't know how he can use the clickbait title that this is key issues when he asks what are the damages and never mentions the fact that the damages could be just to stop Aptera from making anything. No money involved, no payment to Zaptera, just giving Zaptera the freedom to be the one first to make an Aptera. That went right over his head. Or did it? Could this Cretin know that that might be the damages that they're pursuing and not want anybody to even think about the possibility? I think it's that. I think the Cretin has enough intelligence to talk to the fanboys in a way that deceives, that he knows more than he says, but just highlights what he wants to present that will keep the fanboys going, keep them trying to prop up this dead horse that they have. The greatest damage that could ever be done is to just prevent Aptera from making a product, and that is very much on the cards. That's probably the first damage. After that, they may pursue some money.
So that doesn't protect them.
If the notion was that they should not have produced anything, it's more likely that the damages will be still to stop them in their tracks whenever that occurs. But also, the money from every sale would go to Zaptera. Point 7 is nothing to be happy about. It's all good for Zaptera and nothing good for Aptera.
The damages, I think, are going to be, is my take is they're going to be relatively small because Zaptera cannot extract, so like Aptera doesn't have that much money, and they can't extract that much money out of them. And what they want, ideally, the best situation for them is that Aptera becomes wildly successful and they get a percentage of that. And
No, I don't know why the Cretin has gone backwards. He's a scatterbrain, and I've always said this. He's a scatterbrain and a guesser, and his main intent is to deceive as much as possible. There is no evidence that Zaptera is wanting to wait until Aptera is highly successful and then get a little more money from them after that. Zaptera have never indicated that they want this to happen. The Cretin is just suggesting it out of thin air, or as others say, pulling it from where the sun doesn't shine.
So it could be that so in most of these cases they end up being settled. They don't go to court.
Hasn't this one already gone to court? Hasn't Aptera flatly denied with them, so that indicates Aptera is not in any mood to settle. The realities of the situation are different from what the Cretin is saying how most things occur.
That my personal take as a non-expert on this is that their case is fairly weak, but unless Aptera can prove that they don't own the patent, they do have.
Heather's personal take was that Aptera's case was strong, and that's what I got from it. People should start thinking for themselves and not just be sucked in by the nonsense that the Cretin gets up to, with all his guesses and all the key issues that are strong in his mind but really don't make sense at all.
Have some kind of case, and the cost of litigating it's going to be too high, and so they will settle for some relatively small amount and make this go away essentially. That's kind of my take on this. I don't know if that's going to be true. Again, we only have one side of the story, and we don't have enough information to make a more educated guess. But that's where we're at.
He uses the term educated guess, when in reality, the educated guess a lot less than the uneducated. When you look at the substance in his guesses, you can't find any education that would back it up.
And that's kind of where I think it's going to stay for many years. We're not going to know too much more about it. I know from talking to people at Aptera, they do not seem very worried about this.
He should know that talking to Aptera only gets lies. If Aptera tells me they're not too worried about it, I would be more inclined to think that they're very worried about it. But there are other reasons why they could be not worried about it. Deeper and more sinister reasons.
Or at least that's kind of the impression that I'm getting from them, or that's the impression that they're giving to me, whichever way you want to take a look at it. But I kind of agree. I don't think the damages are going to be much, and I don't think the case is too strong. But unless they can totally make it dismissed by saying they don't own the patent, I'm guessing it's going to get settled for some relatively small amount of money. So it's unfortunate, but not catastrophic, is kind of my take-home message on this. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.
I noticed he didn't ask for what the public think about this. He's realising that a lot of the public don't agree with him and find it safer to not ask. Well, that's all for me. Bye for now. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Intelligent comments welcome. Stay safe.